Hello and good morning. Welcome to, what is it, Sunday at DragonCon? Woo! Woohoo! This is the Female Presenting in the Digital Space panel. This is the second year we've been doing this one at DragonCon and the fifth convention I've done this panel at on some level. So I will tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Phaedra Black. I am a multi-platform content creator, Twitch, TikTok, the adult ones, all over the place. So I do a little bit of everything. But how I do my panels is we'll go down, we will give introductions for everyone that is here, what they do in digital media, and then I like to kind of do more of a Q&A style panel where people can kind of, ask what they want to ask and find out what they want to learn. All right?
Sweet. Oh, yeah, I sat next to the moderator. Oh, no. My name is Jenna. I am Jenna Chill on the internet, and I do a lot of podcasts, mostly about D&D or D&D adjacent topics, but also, no, actually probably mostly books now.
Yeah.
Oh, man, mostly about books.
Yeah, mostly about books. I'm Alex P. Alex and Birds on the formerly Twitter, I guess. I do a lot of podcasts as well. Mostly about books, but also about D&D. Jenna and I have some overlap, one may say, between what we do.
It's a circle.
Good morning, good afternoon. Where are we? Oh, good afternoon. All right. Bonjour. My name is Leanne Lord. I am a stand-up comedian, author, podcaster, cat mom or cat consort, because that's the real relationship there. I have a podcast called People with Parents, and it's about the role reversal that happens between adult children and aging parents. And if you're not in that category yet, let me be your ghost of Christmas future. So the podcast is it's funny, it's poignant. I wanted a sexier podcast like Dungeons and Dragons or about dating, and that's really not what opportunity handed me. So, but happy to be here and not letting my imposter syndrome take over at all.
You're doing great. Hi, everybody. My name is Kate Osborne. I go by Catieosaurus on all corners of the social media. I'm stealing this from Phaedra because that's so good. I am a multi-platform content creator. I'm stealing that for life, Phaedra. I primarily talk about neurodivergency and disability. In particular, I'm a certified sex educator, and my special interest is the intersection and interaction of neurodivergency and disability with sex and intimacy and relationships. I also work a lot in TTRPGs, making TTRPGs more accessible for neurodivergent and disabled people. And I also have a podcast where we talk about neurodivergency. It's called Katie and Eric's Infinite Quest, and sometimes we play D&D.
Nice. I'm Melissa Miller. I am a science writer. I'm at Melissa Truth, Truth, which is my middle name on Twitter and Blue Sky. I have a couple of podcasts about science and pop culture sort of crossover. So there's Star Warsologies, where we talk about with experts about how their field overlaps with Star Wars, which is, pretty much everybody's can. And then we just started one, me and a physicist friend of mine, called The Facts and the Furious, where we talk about if the Fast and the Furious is physically possible. Spoiler alert, no. But we stretch it out into full-length episodes.
It's not Tokyo Drift,
right?
More like Brooklyn.
I'm texting my husband.
So if you've ever wanted to talk to a physicist about the Fast and the Furious, tune into that. I also worked at Nerdist for about a year as their science writer, and then I do a lot of freelance articles and stuff like that, mostly intersection of science and pop culture.
So we have quite the array of different things to talk about today. So for the most part, this panel really kind of likes to focus on the differences that female presenting people get in the digital media, video game, podcast industry, because there are just different things that we have to face, especially in the way people react to us, how people, if they take us seriously, if they even listen sometimes, or just the overall safety and how we handle things on the internet and in person when we are out at places like conventions or sometimes even at the grocery store. So if there's anything that you wanted to add to the discussion before we take questions, like any personal experiences or stories that really emphasize the differences for female presenting versus male presenting in this industry.
So just like a really chill, easy starter
question.
Yeah.
We just jump right in. Last year it got really deep and it was like, oh my God, we need to do this again because there were so many things that didn't hit on because it's a very interesting topic and it's a very one that people tend to overlook a lot as well.
Yeah.
So
For me, it's a lot of like how I approach my fandoms. So I don't have encyclopedic knowledge of Star Wars. I just love Star Wars. So it's like I get a lot of the well actually, sort of things. And that's, I mean, part of it's just I have a terrible memory, right? Like even if I wanted encyclopedic knowledge of Star Wars, which I don't, it wouldn't stay in there. And so my co-host for Star Warsologies has it, like can remember every character name out of every book, out of every comic, out of every movie, but I don't. And so I'll often be like, oh, that's the one with the, whatever. And I think our dynamic works well, but I do also feel like I can't help what people who listening to it are thinking of me, but I can't help but like sort of like get into that stereotype a little bit. That's just who I am. I don't approach my fandom that way, and he does. And I think together we make a good team. But I also know that I probably come across as this like, ditzy girl from Southern California that says like too much and stuff like it. But I can't help it. That's actually just, who I am. So
Are we going down the line?
Sure, why not?
Oh, sorry.
okay.
I mean, I would just say that I always feel so interesting at these types of panels, which I do a lot now. And it's because I very openly talk about sex and intimacy on the internet because that's what I'm passionate about. That's what I'm excited about. And especially when it comes to things like neurodivergency. And so for me, it's been really interesting seeing the sort of dichotomy that occurs as a person who talks about sex as like sort of femme presenting on the internet, because some people take it very seriously and they're like, thank you so much for the work that you're doing. This is amazing and incredible. And I know so much more about myself. And then the other half is like, can I see your boobs? And I'm like, you know what I mean? And so I don't know if I have like a ton to say about it, but I do want to sort of acknowledge in the space that content, whether it be Star Wars or stand-up comedy, there's always that sort of dichotomy of, are they taking me seriously and seeing me as a person, or are they seeing me as like a sexualized being to whom they are somehow entitled? And that gets to be frustrating and exhausting, but I also think it can open up a lot of really interesting conversations and sometimes provide a really great avenue for educating people about how to just treat people like people, and that's okay too.
Yeah, this whole concept of women are people.
Shocking. What?
It's taken a little while for that to take hold. I mean, we're just getting around to dresses with pockets. So I echo what you said, except for Star Wars. For me, it's Star Trek, and
yeah.
I do sort of intellectually compete, and then I realize how exhausting that is too. Can't I just enjoy the franchise? Can't we share a rack to Gino together and meet you in 10 forward? So always having to feel the need to prove yourself. For me, being the one in the room, whether it's being a woman or being a Black person, of being on shows, or I look at lineups. I live in New York City, and I look at a lineup of a show, and it's all male, and no one bats an eye. And so to not be considered in the default of what we can be is challenging and exhausting. But I'd like to say things are getting better, but I won't. They are, but yeah.
It'll always be a journey of things working on getting better and getting to a different point, a different place. If you say, oh, they're better now, then that kind of gives the to some people will give that, okay, we've gone far enough, we don't need to go any further.
Yes,
Right.
they
But
can
it's not
take the
a-
foot off the gas.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not, there's no destination to that journey. It is an ongoing, just let's go. See where it ends up.
Right. You can't brush off every complaint with, well, it used to be worse.
Right. It's not, it doesn't work.
That's not.
I will say in the area of being challenged on knowledge or expertise or why are you here, I've never gotten that from a woman. So what that says about where we are, take for that what you will.
Yep. So where my sort of wheelhouse will be in all of this was I was a moron that learned how to play D&D live on a podcast. So yeah. So for me, it's really a lot of I get challenged a lot by the men in the room and that kind of stuff. But from that, most of the shows that we're doing now, we have at least a half mix or of women, men, which it really did change things. And not to again plug these two and stuff that we did, but Guild of Granddaughters is an all women D&D game that we do here and then on International Women's Day. And seeing how things come to light when you put all of those women together in a room and let them be funny and let them have their space and let them do what they are good at is it's incredible. It's magic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is really interesting to watch the dichotomy of like when you're in a space that is a good mix of female presenting and male presenting, trying to decide whether whether the idea itself matters enough that you said it, or that you said it and then someone didn't listen to it and then they said it and then they're gonna get the credit for it. Whether you want to just like let that go and have your idea out there no matter what, or like working with the all women crew of Guild of Granddaughters, like it doesn't matter. We just all did the thing. We just all did it.
Mhm.
Like it's all a collaborative effort, period, no matter what. It's interesting trying to figure out whether to fight for your space or just let it happen.
It is, and just to expand on that a little more, one of the other fantastic things about like playing with people in the space that are women is that I do find you have that little bit of defensiveness for the other person, and you're like, yeah, they said that, not you, they said that, and like that's an important thing for somebody to have your back in the space as well, that understands like
Where you're coming from and what you're saying.
exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So for my take on that, for me, is that because I do adult content, you have the assumption that I'm automatically either stupid, that I don't know what I'm doing, or in a business world where the people forget that you're running a business all by yourself. There's so much that goes into what you're doing, and the fact that there's a lot of psychology that goes into being able to talk to people and being able to continue doing that in a way that makes money. And then on top of that, you get the assumption that you're a horrible parent. Oh my God, you're doing this, so obviously you can't be a good parent. But you look at men that travel for work that are never home, that have someone else do their parenting jobs for them. They're a good parent because they're out making money. So, but you don't really see that when it's done on a female perspective. Even females that travel and put their careers first and have someone else watching their children, they're a bad mother because they're not there with their kids all the time. And it's just definitely the gender roles for that kind of are very skewed, that we are getting better with, and we are progressing on that as well. But it does go into the same like topic that we're talking about.
Yeah, no, in my previous life, I was a scientist and I went out to sea for a living. So I would go on research boats and stuff like that for months at a time. And the number of people who asked me what my husband thought of that was pretty high. And I know, some people are just curious. What does your partner think of this? Right. I'm gone for months at a time. They have to take care of everything. I don't have kids. So that wasn't, but it was just like, I really wanted to know how many people would have asked him that question.
Right.
And because some people would have, but not nearly as many people as who asked me about it. It's like, oh, does your husband, is he okay with you being gone and him being home and having to take care of everything? I'm like, yeah, that's why I married him. But it's one of those things.
And from an adult content perspective, you get the same thing. Oh, well, what does your boyfriend, husband, whatever think about what you're doing?
Right.
Does it matter?
Right. Yeah.
That's a private conversation between me and my partner.
Right.
I would never let my girlfriend do that. Well, that's why you're single.
Yeah.
But But so that's kind of where we are and where we sit on our experiences. So for the audience, do you have questions? Do you have experiences to share? Do you have want insight on something that maybe we've experienced? Because that's what this is for. This is I almost want to say like a roundtable discussion versus a listen to us. Yeah. So yay, questions. There is a microphone. You can state your name if you so choose. You don't have to, because not everybody wants to say their name on the internet.
So I mod for several female presenting friends on Twitch, and some that are masculine presenting, and it is a completely different experience, like in terms of what kind of harassment they get. So that's what I know on kind of the Twitch side of things. For other platforms, what's that experience like, and do you have anyone who helps kind of filter out the garbage before it gets to you, to kind of alleviate that mental burden, or not?
Yeah. So I am a Twitch partner, and I also do a lot of content on a lot of different platforms. And the answer is yes. When I first started out, I tried to do it all on my own because I'm a burnt out gifted kid. And I was like, I must to be successful. I have to do this all on my own. And I very quickly learned that mods are incredibly important. And it was hard for me. It was hard for me to accept that help, not only because I felt somehow like I was failing, but one of the things that really helped, and that I would love to just sort of share to the room, is that it really helped me reframe it when I started thinking about I'm less worried about protecting myself. I have a thick skin. I don't care if people come on my Twitch stream and say show us your boobs or whatever. But what I do care is about keeping my community safe. And so accepting that help and saying, actually, I'm not going to allow this behavior in my community because I don't want my community to think that this is acceptable, or I'm endorsing this behavior, or this guy gets away with this thing, and so then therefore I can get away with that thing. And so yeah, so I do utilize a number of like safety tools, especially like when I'm playing D&D and like that kind of thing. I also finally caved this year, after I have a really large platform, and so I finally caved. I have an assistant, and she has the unfortunate task of sometimes like she gets the hate mail before me, and so now it's like this interesting dichotomy where I've said dichotomy way too many times in this panel, but this interesting situation where she gets the hate mail before I do, and so now I check in on her and I say, hey, I'm sorry for whatever terrible thing you had to read today. And she's like, it's my job. And I'm like, yeah, but it's still not okay that you have to be the one. And so now it's kind of an interesting quandary of taking care of the people who are getting the messages that were supposed to be for me in the first place. But yeah, it's really important to have those safety tools and those buffers, because people love to be mean on the internet.
Yeah. Yeah, at Nerdist, when I worked there, when I first started, so the first article I wrote for them, there were still comments like on their website, and I made the mistake, of course, of just dabbling. No, of course, and I know, and you know this intrinsically. And then by the time I started working there full time and doing it, they had disabled that function at all because. Yeah, they didn't have moderation of it. They didn't, nothing was happening there. There wasn't engagement. But, it was this weird thing of like, well, I want more Twitter followers. So I'll put my, Twitter link in every article as a byline. But, so I got a couple more followers, but then I got a lot of tweets that started with, at Melissa Truth. What you don't understand about insert fandom here is, and so I just, move on with my life or whatever. But it's hard. There are days you want to sort of engage and push back, and then that never starts anything off, well. And I know some of the other people who worked there just were real liberal with the block function and stuff like that. But it's weird because at the same time, it's like, oh, but I want to, up my follower count and stuff like that. So there's no perfect solution, but the moderation and help, although, as you said, that just puts sort of the burden on someone else.
Yeah, like with TikTok, like the fights in the comments, like it's views, it's interaction, so it's like finding that fine line of how far do you let other people bicker with each other in your videos and your comments for engagement, for followers, for awareness, and then when you put a stop to it, But I know on some of my older accounts, because I have so many because they keep getting banned, but I had a pretty good following of people that would correct people themselves in the comments. They would be like, hey, this is not cool, this is, and that's the type of community that I cultivated, that kind of police themselves on inappropriate behavior and how you talk to people. So
yeah, I get to be one of the lucky ones that mods all my own stuff, just because it's podcast stuff, it's really kind of more intimate, smaller, that kind of thing. And I am the person that comes into the room and I will literally say, if like they're having a fight, if you make me moderate, I swear you are all in trouble, because I just don't want to do that. But we've luckily had very few issues where it has ended up in somebody being banned or somebody being kicked out. And unfortunately, that is kind of a process for me because I am not super hard on that ban button. I'm like, let's have a conversation and understand what's going on, which is the longer it goes on, the less that happens, because you just can't sometimes. So luckily, the community that we've created is generally pretty good and pretty chill. And there's a lot of people in there that are friends of ours that also do the work that we do. So when they see things kind of going sideways, they're like, hey, something's going wrong here. You might want to check that. So yeah.
And establishing like a clear boundary, a clear rule set that people can reference, and then pointing them to that when things start to get a little hairy is great,
because it takes that interpersonal relationship out of it. 'Cause you're like, here are the black and white rules that you agreed to when you came in here. Read those
Remember
one more
that.
time. Yep.
I don't know. I'm just a big fan of block and delete. I don't and then understanding I absolutely do not owe anyone an argument. I just don't. It's
Yeah.
my time, my energy, and that cost. That has as much value as money. And I get to choose where I spend it. And similar to you guys, people who have followed me long enough, they know what I think is acceptable or not. And before I can even get to address a comment, other people have jumped in like, yeah, you don't want her to come in here and do this, or are you new here?
I always love that comment. Are you new here? Like,
First time.
And I'm very much, if I'm not your thing, there are many things out there that can be for you, and I'm not upset if I'm not it.
not everybody's cup of tea.
Right.
Yeah. And like no one is entitled to your time, but especially not the negative people.
Yeah.
No.
No, it's I mean, it's sort of a tool that my therapist has given me in life in general, but it also works on the internet, is the like don't worry twice, right? So like there's no need to pre-worry about something that may or may not happen, because then you worry then, and then it doesn't happen, you didn't need to worry, or it does happen, you just worry then. So don't worry twice. And it's sort of the same thing. It was like I will come up with in my head, when I should be doing other things, counter arguments to arguments no one has started with me yet. And so
I have had whole relationships in my head.
Yes,
Yes.
right,
Yes.
exactly. So if anyone's got any tools to help me, because I can do
If you
it, I can
learn,
do it in
let us
life.
all know, because I think it's something that we all do. It's like,
Yeah.
if this
We need a
happens,
shared
Right.
Google Doc where we can all have the arguments and then just leave
Oh
them
my
there.
God. Copy and paste.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Yeah. So it's
Start your
yeah,
own
because I
one.
can do it sort of in my normal life, but my internet life, I haven't quite found a way to not worry twice.
all right. So, question.
So I'm a professional game master, and I'm trying to make it my full-time job, but right now it's just a part-time job. And then I also, burnt out gifted kid, decided that I want to start an AP, but in order to start an AP, I want to start an audience. So I also started a YouTube channel. So I'm doing all that. I'm running 3 campaigns, yada, yada, yada. I'm just starting. I'm like 2 months in. I've posted 2 videos. What do you tell the person who's just starting how to handle it? I know I'm not super feminine, so like there's that, which is plus and minus, but like advice. What kind of tools did you start with? Like my Discord community is super tight. They're that's easy. I can deal with that. They've got my back. But just starting out on Twitch and YouTube, Twitter, trying to put myself out there, trying to write stuff and get published and be noticed.
First off, sorry, what's an AP?
Actual play.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Schedule.
Mhm.
Schedule works, I think, in all things.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
especially if you're trying to juggle jobs and part-time jobs and everything else, that having that schedule, even if it's not like a rigid schedule, because as a part-time creator, life is going to take precedence. But even if it's just like, okay, well, start off like, I want to do this once a week. If that works and that works in your schedule, then you want to add, okay, let's do it twice a week. Or, it's definitely just having to figure out what works for your life, but you also don't want to overdo it at the beginning, because that's where you get burnout.
Yeah.
And then it kind of takes the fun out of what it is that you're doing. And it's kind of why I think all of us get into that content creation on some level, is because it's fun and you enjoy it.
Yeah.
And if you take that part out so quickly at the beginning because you burn yourself out, what are you doing? Why are you still doing it?
That's fair. I decided, because I wanted to work on my presence, that I would stream my DM prep. So it actually makes sure that I spend 2 hours on my campaigns every week, because I've got an audience. It's like body doubling. It's great.
Yeah, I like
But
that
just
idea.
from like a safety, feminine, so I'm not like hit with the truck of whatever y'all deal with that you've already discussed. Is there anything you think, I wish I had known that when I started?
I have so I mean, first I would say is especially if you're just starting out, is to slow down, and way more than you think you need to. It's really easy when you are starting out to be like, this is so fun, and you're throwing all your time and all of your investment into it, and then you look, and 6 months later you're completely burned out because you've been making 20 videos a week and like you're managing 8 social media accounts, so that kind of stuff. So picking the specific places where you want your content to be and slowing down. You don't have to make 7 videos a week. You don't have to make 1 video a week. Quality over quantity is a scary term in creator space, because a lot of times it just feels like the more that you make, the more you're going to get seen. And that's not necessarily true. People will pick up on when you're making content that you care about and you're passionate about, and just content that is just garbage filler that you're just throwing because, oh God, I have to post a video today or no one's going to remember who I am. Second, like mods. There's a ton of different safety tools that are just available like within the Twitch platform, within the YouTube platform. I have a lot of things set up like on the back ends that are just things like words people can't say in my chat.
Like your real name, your address, you
Yeah,
know, some things like that. Like you can put those as banned words on your Twitch channel. So if someone were to try to type those out to dox you in any way, nobody sees it.
Nice to know.
Yeah.
I do that because I have a daughter.
Yeah.
You know, so, and you want to make sure that all of that, like the name of her school is one of the words that you can't say in my chat. You know, her last name, my last name, those are all things you cannot say in our chat.
Yeah.
And then you have also the list of all kinds of other naughty words that people shouldn't say
Um,
that either you don't want in your community or just bad in general.
Yeah, and
So-
it's okay to go overboard. Like that's the thing is like I like, and admittedly, like 2 years ago, if I was at this panel and I was hearing this advice, I'd be like, Psh, "Oh, that's so like wow, Phaedra's so like." Wow, she's paranoid. And now I'm like, no, absolutely do everything she just said. You know what I mean? And that's the kind of thing is it's okay to go overboard, because as you're sort of building that community, as you're sort of like putting that space together, people are going to recognize that safety. And if they feel comfortable in your community, they're going to stay. And that's how you build an audience. Like people will come and go from Twitch streams. They're going to come and go from the Discord. But if they feel safe, if they feel seen, if they feel heard, that's what's going to bring people to your community and keep them there long term. And that's how you build an audience.
Thank you for saying that, because that's what my Discord server is like, but I never would have thought to bring that to YouTube or Twitch or anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's amazing advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Also,
And-
as far as the getting started, I know she said earlier, like, don't worry about things that aren't going to happen, but you kind of do have to have in your head the possibility of things that people can say about you and how you would react to those things. So if someone comes on your Twitch stream and says something about you, how are you going to react? You're live. Like, are you going to freak out? Are you going to shut down? Are you going to have, you know, and then you have that, okay, well, so some of this, I'm going to take a break, and you just take a break and walk away for a second and come back, because it may be something that you didn't think someone would actually say to somebody that they don't know. But
Right.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's the thing, is that there's a very fine line between worry and being prepared for something that could probably happen, because it's the internet, and the internet is occasionally a terrible place to be.
Right.
Leanne, I'm a panelist, but I'm going to ask a question. Haha. I'm really curious because you're also a stand-up comic, right?
Yes,
And so how do you
primarily.
navigate that, like in real life space?
Yeah.
Like if you've got people like hassling you from the crowd, or how do you protect yourself like when you're doing like a live performance?
Okay, so yeah, heckling is it can be a thing at live shows. I tend not to get that. My mentor, very early in my career, would always advise the best defense against a heckler is to have a tight, funny set. They are so busy laughing that they don't have time. And the type of audience that I attract, I've had people, if there's someone over here talking, I've had other audience members go, shh, they want to hear, and the audience will police those folks. So I don't leave there's not a lot of room for that. Most by gender, men tend, believe it or not, to not heckle, because when going to a comedy show is a dating activity, they don't want to look like a douchebag in front of their girl.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's weird how the dynamics work. The worst hecklers do tend to be women in a group, bridal shower, birthday, woo! It's those girls. Yeah. But it's weird because they heckle in a way that's positive. Like they're there, they're happy to see a female comic, and they're on your side, and it's like, oh sis, can you be on my side a little quieter? You know, so it's that dance. So it's interesting, but I tend not to get a great deal of it. But thank you for asking
I
that
feel
question.
like the people don't have they're not anonymous in
Right.
live in
Right.
a comedy
Right.
versus behind a keyboard where nobody knows who they are. So they kind of takes that whole like armor they think they have away if
Yeah.
they're like in
Yeah.
your face.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm the one with the microphone
Right.
and the skill. And do you really want my attention
I
in
mean,
the way that you're trying to get it? Because I will stop a show, and now it's about you and
Right.
and your ancestors, and you're not going to be happy from that experience. So if you just listen to little jokes I wrote, we all gonna have a good
All right.
night.
All right. So,
Um,
question.
Oh, can I just?
Oh.
I'm so sorry. I just
Yeah,
wanted
no,
to
you're
say one more thing about the schedule. You said schedule and planning, and I know this might sound elemental, but what was very helpful for me, making lists. Those are wishes. The thing that you're planning and wanting to do that has to take up real space and real time in your calendar. Even if you underestimate or overestimate, just go, oh yeah, I want to do such and such. It doesn't get done. How much time does that take? And then you get a real idea of what is my time and my energy. And you'd be surprised how much time we do not have and how quickly things go. And so it's just a help. And if this is all really basic stuff, I apologize, but I know it has helped me to go, wow, I thought it was going to take an hour. It took 3.
Yeah.
Or, oh, this is a bigger project than I thought, and I have to break these steps down even further.
Right.
And then it's taking me longer, but it's going to be a better quality job. And I'm saving my sanity because I've planned, no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to DragonCon.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you have more time than you need, backlog.
Yeah,
right.
right.
There you go.
Yeah. Every once in a while, it does happen that this project in your head is so big, and oh god, I just can't get it started. And then you start on it, and you spend half an hour. You're like, oh, this is actually only a 2-hour project or something
Right.
like
Yeah.
that. So
Bonus.
my advice for my own self recently, because all my deadlines are self-imposed, and so I could never do them, and the only person that cares is me. But it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, but you do have to, sort of keep up with these sorts of things.
Thank you for letting me interrupt you on your way
Just
to the mic.
get started. Yes.
Hi, I'm Nico Bray, and so on the subject of dresses and pockets, I tried to work on both drawing and I'm getting into making clothing now. I was wondering, where do you think would be the best space to put pockets onto dresses? Because I've noticed that depending on what kind of clothing you have, you can't just slap it at the edge of your at the edge of your hips and then make it work just fine like pants. I've noticed that in jackets like these are more on the front side instead of the sides. For something that's a little bit shorter, yeah, you need it somewhere close to the chest. What do you think works best for that?
Interesting.
I like the full skirts with like the pockets.
Yeah. So, okay. Hello. My background is in
This is the rest of the panel now.
historical
Yeah, yeah.
costume
right?
design.
We're talking about
Okay, so-
pockets
So
panel.
I actually have the wild dress with pockets in the live wild. So but I'm not a seamstress. I'm not. That's not where my skills lie. But and I actually don't use them. I just like having them here.
Yeah.
Like if I wanted to put something in here,
Just a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Because having pockets changes everything.
it does.
Yeah,
It does.
yeah.
It feels like freedom. What?
See, my
Yeah.
dress has the shorts with the hidden pockets.
Oh, nice.
Because like mine is like the pockets that are right here.
Yeah.
Up
Oh, like
there.
similar.
Oh.
Oh,
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I think it definitely depends on the piece, but like I know for someone like me, I don't seem like I'm an exceptionally short person, but I do have very short arms. Having pockets be a little bit higher would
Mhm.
be so good, so good. I would love that. Please,
Yeah.
can you do that for me?
Yeah, no, because sometimes you can't even reach
You're
the
like,
bottom of
yeah,
your pockets.
I'm
Yes.
like, why are they on my knees?
Yeah.
Or they're very shallow. and
Yeah.
you put it
Big
in
enough to fit a
middle.
phone in.
This
Yeah.
is what I was going
But
to say.
also-
Something a little bit buck wild.
No, you.
Okay, fine. No, this is a little bit buck wild. I don't care where you put them. Please make it so I can put like a 12-pack of Coke in them.
Yeah.
Although you have to
Yeah.
be careful though, because I have some big pockets. I've started buying dresses from this company called Svaha, SVAHA, and they have huge pockets because it's like for teachers. But honestly, it can get too heavy. If you put too many things in there,
Yes.
your whole it's a
Because you're
dress,
gonna
so
put
it's
everything
okay,
in
but
there
the
because they're
skirts
there.
it will
Strength
actually
training.
pull it down.
You just
So,
blew my entire
yeah.
mind thinking about the fact that teachers need bigger pockets.
Yeah, dude.
No, and I wish I was wearing one. I have one in my bag to wear later, but it's like literally it goes like up to my arm in there. But it's like if you put a can of Coke in there, because I have done that, it will weigh it down. So on a dress, it's okay, but if you were wearing the skirt version, it would.
And you said SCA.
SVAHA, and they're all STEM themed. So I have ones with like.
But if you
fish
need models to like
galaxies
model the dresses that
and
you
stuff
make,
like
you'll
that,
definitely take
so-
samples and
Oh,
put them on.
Right, and also her universe also has pockets.
Oh,
and
yeah,
all her
those are
stuff.
Right?
So I'm gonna say historically, because hello, my background is in historical costume design. So pockets used to be detachable. like you would like there was like a slit in your skirt and then your petticoat and then whatever, and then you would keep your pocket as like a separate thing that was like tied to your belt. And so then that's kind of like where they came from. And so I'm a huge advocate of that, especially for like convention like cosplay things, is create the opening and then have a separate thing that you can reach into, because then you don't have to worry about the supports. Now, this is not going to work for like your ball gowns. This is not going to work for like your, standard teacher wear. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of detachable pockets. And also, if you are making okay, this is a rant that I have. I'm so sorry. But you have to think structurally about weight. If you put like 2 Coke cans in your dress, in your knit dress, and then it stretches all to hell, that's not a useful pocket. So you got to think about shoulder construction. You got to think about bodice construction. You got to think about where's the support coming from. If some like gravity, so you got to think this way, right, and this way. And anyway, I'm sorry. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
And there are also alternate pockets. I mean, the bra pocket,
God's
hello,
pocket, right.
AirPods always right here.
Yeah.
And I have to remember that because once my boyfriend went to hug me, he's like, "Oh my God, are you okay? Is this a tumor? Do we have to check this out?" And I'm like, "It's AirPods, dude.
Yeah,
it's
just
AirPods.
It's just come down.
Oh yeah, my daughter came home from school like last week, and she gets off the bus and she starts pulling candy out of her shirt, and I was like, "Child," she goes, "What, Mom? You using as pockets?"
Yeah.
Each one teach one.
Oh, child.
I also have to want to fill up their dresses with like I'm a software developer with like the ones and zeros and all that stuff.
Oh,
Yay.
yeah, they have that.
I am in a very small niche of the tech industry that is about 20% women. Like we have grown to 20% women, and we're very excited about this.
Yay!
But I have been tasked with leading and growing a community for women in this industry. So both as a leader and in the forefront of this is all on LinkedIn. I have 2 things I'd like to ask y'all to address. One is, y'all know that phrase, be humble, but let know. How do we achieve that balance? Because a lot of times on comments where we are elevating women's voices in the industry and everything like that, we'll have men come in and like try to take over the comments and make it about them or what they've done. And you can't stab them in the face, but because there's like professional considerations there. Like this one person was actually a colleague that my husband depends on for his contracting and our family income. So I'm limited in what I can say. But like he's sitting here making these comments, and then when we went back on him, because he was trying to give my husband credit for one woman's work, he was like, "You women are just being so dramatic." So like it gets to a bad point. How do I not only help balance that, be humble, but let them know, but how do I also protect the women under my care, the women in this community I am trying to grow from that negative commenting? Do I just like block them and call it a day, or like how do I balance that?
For me, and this is an experience from when I used to manage restaurants. I used to manage fine dining restaurants, and I would have hostesses that were like 16 years old. And these usually older men would come in and just want to scream at the hostess for, a wait time or the reservation being lost or anything like that. And my way of dealing with it would always be like, "Do you talk to your daughter that way?" "Well, what do you mean? Would you let some strange adult man talk to your daughter that way?" "Well, no." "Okay, so then why do you get to talk to somebody else's daughter that way?"
Yeah.
And they would just kind of stand there like that really, really confused look on their face.
Oh, have mercy.
But you know what? They stopped talking. And they would just wander off. And it's just like, that person, you are not just whatever you're doing. That you are someone's daughter, someone's wife, someone's, mother's. You are a human being. And they do forget that in conversation. And sometimes reminding them in a polite way that, "Hey, person,"
Right.
sometimes helps.
Yeah. Would you want credit for your idea? Yes, everyone does. Yeah.
Yeah, I love asking people questions about like why they feel the need to downplay somebody's achievements and downplay anything that they're talking about. What have you done that puts you into this field that makes you an expert? Can you give me your credentials? You're asking me for mine, so what are yours? I would like to know that as well.
So I have two flavors of answer for this, because this is probably my day job. Is I am a senior product manager. I work in the automotive industry with a lot of women in the room that are having those conversations around a subject that women traditionally don't know about cars, and like also we are in the IT field, so like it's a kind of a double whammy sometimes. And the best thing I have found there is that we actually have a really strong female team now. And it's because every single time they're in that space, when someone is saying something and then the man in the room, like, usurps that, they bring it back around. And they're not impolite about it. They're just firm. And they're like, so-and-so said something similar. You can even say something similar if you don't want to say like, hey, you straight up stole that, bro. And just elevating that constantly and keeping that in mind. And that empowers the women in the space to also reciprocate. It takes time, but it allows them to feel safe in that reciprocation and like allowing that community to grow. And, they just don't even realize they're doing it half the time is the problem. And then the more fun answer is that in the podcasting space and the media creation space, work with men who support you and will go to bat for you. And like, if they're not doing that, stop working with them.
Because unfortunately, they will listen to other men a lot faster.
Yep.
And having the men call them out for the behavior
Weaponize
tends
the
to
men.
get a
Weaponize
better
the men.
reaction.
Use
I
the
like
tools
that.
you have.
Yes. Let's get t-shirts. Weaponized men.
Yes, I like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, oh, sorry.
Yep.
My favorite thing to do is to cite my sources, because I'm and it's weird because I educate about neurodivergency, but I'm not a doctor. Like I have certifications, but I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist. And so a lot of times people will, mostly men, will come and say, to prove it. And I go, okay. And then for the next 25 comments, study, source. And that's especially fun if it's your work. It's especially fun if it's an article about you. And it's especially fun if it's an article in which they're not mentioned at all. And then you can say, yeah, so obviously if you look at blah, 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 I'm cited as saying this, because and so I really like to weaponize citations, because not only is it giving credit, and saying I know what I'm talking about, I know where I'm coming from, but it's also giving credit and uplifting the other voices who contributed to that project. And a lot of times those voices are like other marginalized identities who are also not getting the attention because all the space is being taken up by old white men. But that's fine.
In worst case, you just lose them in paperwork.
Yeah, just here's 50 studies, have fun, goodbye.
Here's some homework. Do you want to do that?
Probably not.
No?
Oh, Phaedra, it does look like we have a question on Twitch.
Okay, so Little Moon 392 wants to know what types of content are you speaking on specifically? Is it gaming friendly or NSFW? Regardless of that, I have the ability to create content. I just don't know how to advertise either of those types of accounts, mainly on the gaming side.
TikTok. As much as I hate TikTok because I'm on my 6th account because they keep getting bans, TikTok technically does the advertising for you. If you put videos out, they put them out to other people based on people's likes and interests. And if you align with what they're doing, they are going to put that out for you because Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever it is, people follow you to see your stuff. Twitch, people follow you to see your stuff. TikTok is one of the only platforms that throws you in front of people that don't already follow you at no cost to you. And like I said, as much as it's annoying, it's still one of the best tools out there to get seen. All you just have to do is try to, make a video or something that can get that traction and that interaction with whatever genre of content you are trying to make.
Absolutely. And also share with your friends. Your friends who are also making content are a great resource for that because you want to lift each other up.
From the stand-up perspective, when I'm editing and posting 1 minute 30-second video clips, it's usually one joke or a joke and a half, And with some planning, what I will do is find people or organizations that I think would particularly appreciate the topic and give them a shout out in my comments. So, very specifically, July is a fibroid awareness month. I have jokes about that because I had fibroids, and in my comments, I found they're listed right there in Instagram. Found them, so when I posted those jokes, I said, "Hey, shout out to We Can Wear White." Shout out to women dealing with whatever. Thank you for the work you're doing in the world. They see the video like, oh my gosh, we didn't know this you existed. And so now they've gotten pulled in because that joke relates to them, but now they've met me and want to see my other work. So you can make those connections for yourself. Take that model and move it hopefully elsewhere.
One of the most brilliant marketing ploys that I ever saw, and I stole repeatedly in grad school, was partnering with local businesses that you care about, whether or not they really have a lot to do with your content. But for instance, I have a really close working relationship with the animal shelter that's like right down the street from my house, because I love dogs. And so, I started partnering with them, and I started saying, okay, we're going to do Dungeons and Dragons and dogs, where we're going to play a round of D&D and then highlight an adoptable dog, or like once a month, I'm going to come in and make a video about all the dogs that are still at the shelter from last month, and here's a sad story about them or whatever. So just like Leanne said, partnering with local organizations, but also sometimes thinking outside the box is a really great way to raise awareness, especially if you're interested in sort of like investing in advertisement. Online advertisement is great. It can get you a lot of views. You can really like source your audience, and it can get you, pretty far. But sometimes real world audiences becoming aware of you is more viable, and it's slower. It's definitely slower, but it's people who are actually coming to your content. So a really brilliant thing that I saw once is a podcast that was about coffee, bought coffee sleeves for the local coffee shop. And they said, hey, we know coffee sleeves are a cost and they're expensive. And so they had custom coffee sleeves printed. And then for like months, the coffee shop would just use them. They're like, yeah, cool. Thanks for the coffee sleeves. And then everybody walked out of that coffee shop with an ad for the coffee podcast that they were. And I was like, that's so brilliant. I did that 20 times in grad school for the shows that I was doing.
I love that.
Similarly, if you're a person who does live shows, or you do live podcast recordings, another really good one to do is to go to local hair salons and invite the stylists for free, because stylists need things to talk about to their people while they're cutting their hair. And and then they say, oh my God, I was at this like show last night and it was so good. And it was there, oh my God, she's so funny. You should go check her out. Hairstylists will build your audience in a way that you would not believe.
Interesting.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I like that.
That one's
you?
yeah.
Amazing.
That's good. That one's free. You can all have that one for
There you
free.
go.
For more information, visit Catieosaurus.com.
Can I throw in something very quickly on the
Yeah.
the last question that
Oh,
we had? I would say my what I try to do is breathing before sending. So I'm not sending or responding when I'm angry. Because it's like he said what, and then the fingers are going. And someone once said to me, before you hit send, think, do you want to make an enemy or do you want to make a friend? And so just maybe backing away, breathing, whether that's a minute, whether that's a day, or even do I need to respond at all? I think has saved me and given me time to reword things more diplomatically, but yet clearly with the anger and feelings taken out.
Yeah, I really wish that wasn't true, but I have the same thing too, right? Like I really wish that I could have no, here's the piece of my mind and here's how I reacted to this. Because I feel like there's plenty of people who in the professional world can do that. But I think definitely you're right in terms of, and a lot of times no response is what I end up doing in those cases. Yeah, I was also going to say for that question that depending on what sort of office environment, or if you're on Slack or Discord or something like that, I highly recommend a No Boys Allowed channel in every space. Where the female presenting, the people who are getting this type of thing can go and just vent and be told, this is happening, this isn't just you, this was uncalled for, because I think that that's really important.
Question.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Bonjour.
Thank you so much for doing this panel. These are all really amazing points. So something that I struggle with creating digital media is I'm actually kind of afraid of interacting with an audience. Like, I have a webcomic. I have not read comments on my pages for like the last 6 months because it is just such an intimidating task because like I'm so afraid of what people are gonna think. And I guess I just wondered if any of you have ever had like a similar feeling, or kind of what is your advice to surmount fears of interacting with the public? Because I've always been just a very like cautious person. It's like a safety thing for me because I am a woman, and I just kind of wondered what your advice was about that. Thank you.
I know, Katie, you said you have someone that does it for you.
Yeah,
so you kind of have
I
that.
have moderators. I also have an assistant who helps me with like emails and that kind of thing. But for me, I think what I got profoundly lucky, and I want to say that going in. But because my content was about neurodivergency, because it was about like the sort of struggles of being a late diagnosed individual, there was a lot of sort of like game recognized game energy in my comments. And I really haven't had to deal with a lot of unkindness. And I can't remember who said it. I'm so sorry. But it was kind of the thing where, you know, comments like my community will also stick up for me in the comments where it's like, oh, you don't want to say that, like, oh, was it you getting it? I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
But it's like that kind of thing as well, where my community now knows that my expectations are compassion and kindness and understanding above all else, and if you cannot do that, if you cannot fit into that, then you don't get to be here. And one of the best pieces of advice I ever got when I was first starting out was that your comment section, your content, your, you know, whatever spaces that you are occupying online, that's your house. That's your house. And everybody in the comments is invited over to your party at your house. And if, you know, whatever sort of behavior you wouldn't allow at your house at a house party, they're not invited back. You know, and that kind of thing. And sometimes it might be, hey, you pull somebody aside at that party and you say, hey man, like that wasn't cool, but I understand where you're coming from. So like, let's figure out a way that like you can safely come back to the party. But I genuinely started thinking about my comments and my community as sort of like a big party that I was throwing and I'm responsible for. And it helped me sort of get out of that mindset of like, I have to respond to every single comment. I really don't, because at a party, you're not involved in every single conversation, but you are responsible for the vibe. And if the vibe is off, if somebody's causing problems and causing issues, you're going to be made aware of that. But you shouldn't ever be afraid to attend a party at your own house. And if you are feeling that way, then maybe you need a couple of security guards at the door. Maybe you need an assistant who's vetting the people who come inside, like whatever that looks like to you. But yeah, the party lens is I think really helpful.
Yeah, that is helpful.
That's a really great analogy, actually.
Yeah, I really like
Isn't it great? I don't remember who told me that, and they left TikTok actually.
Oh.
That was the thing, is they got like run off of TikTok, and I was like, but your advice was so good.
Yeah. No, yeah, I'm a big fan of my party, my page.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, what are we doing here? I will say that we are so primed and on guard for the worst that we don't sometimes hold out the idea that there can be beautiful gems in the comments where people come in and go, wow, thank you for this. You know, and I don't know how all the platforms work, but I'm a big fan of pinning the positive. So if there's a really good comment, and it's pin that one on the top so people get that first comment that they see and they get the idea, oh, that's what we're doing here.
Yeah,
I have this really big problem with anxiety with the community, where if somebody is doing something bad, if somebody is doing something that I don't approve of, I feel like that is my fault. And it's hard sometimes to let that go and realize that no, it is not. I don't have control over what another human being does in the digital space. So for me, a really helpful thing that I started doing a long time ago was if I do see something that I don't like, but I know that I don't have control over it and I can't stop it from happening, it's just something that I don't like, is I will take a screenshot of it and I print it out and I will rip it up or throw it away or burn it. And then I have control over what I have just done with their comment. Physically, I have gotten it out of my space, out of my headspace. And then I just try to work to let it go.
I like that.
It's funny, I did something similar because people will say interesting things in the DMs And I'm like, thank you for writing that joke for me. And I do that on stage now. let me read you what they just said. And so it's cathartic, it's funny, and it almost teaches the audience, oh, maybe I should be careful what I put in a stand-up comedian's DMs. Yes,
Right?
you should.
That's amazing.
Now, unfortunately, we do have to wrap things up. So we're going to touch on our DragonCon charity, and then we are going to go back down the line and reintroduce ourselves so you can find us. So this year, the DragonCon charity partner for 2023 is Cure. Cure is dedicated to conquering childhood cancer through funding targeted research while supporting patients and their families. Use the QR codes that we have down there to donate, and DragonCon matches all donations up to $125,000 this year. Our track sponsor for 2023 is The Cat. For over 22 years, they've been empowering lives through disaster relief, food distribution, orphan care, and more. Their top-notch ratings from Charity Navigator and the Better Business Bureau Wise Giving Alliance means your contributions are going to make a difference. So those are our sponsors and our charities for this year. And again, I'm Phaedra Black, multi-platform content creator, doing all kinds of things all over the place. I do talk about mental health, adult content, parenting, the craziness that is my somewhat poly dating life. So it's all over there. PhaedraBlack.com is where you can find me because all of my platforms repeatedly get banned. So it's all on the website with updated links.
I'm Jenna, and you can find me at Jenna Chill all over the internet. I do TTRPGs and book club podcasts, and you can find almost everything that I do at
Linktree. So linktr.ee/jointheclubs with an S.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, guess what? Linktree.ee/jointheclubs is also where you can find a lot of my work. There's a lot that we do together. We also have stuff that we do separately. So if you really like Jenna and didn't like me, that's great. It's there too. It's okay. You can go there. But no, I'm Alex P. I'm at Alex and Birds on Twitter if you want to find me. I do a lot of podcasts, a lot about Animorphs, Dungeons and Dragons stuff, YA novels. If you're into, nostalgia mostly, hit me up.
I am Leanne Lord. I can be found at veryfunnylady.com. That is the portal to all things me. I even have little cards here with my QR code. I'm so proud of myself that you can take and screenshot and connect with me on my platforms and my email list. I do perform nationally and internationally, and I love to let folks know where I'm performing, what city I'm in, so that we can connect and have fun. So Leanne Lord, veryfunnylady.com.
Hi, everybody. I will continue to be Kate Osborne, and you can find me as Catieosaurus on all corners of the social medias. If there's a Catieosaurus to be found, it's me. You can also check out all of my links at beacons.ai/Catieosaurus or go to catieosaurus.com. Whether or not that website is updated is it's really a roll of the dice.
And I'm Melissa Miller. If you want to find me more at DragonCon, I'll be on a panel in the science room later today at 5:30 called Orcas versus Boats and Other Sea Dangers, where I'll talk about my previous life as a seagoing scientist. And then also tomorrow at 10 a.m. for the droid feelings in the Star Wars room. So, I'm online at Melissa Truth, TRUTH, or you can find Star Wars ologies or Facts and the Furious podcasts. And I do have some business cards if anyone wants any of those.
So thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you guys next year.
Yeah, thanks for coming.